The Netherlands has one of the world's highest qualities of life, but it comes with a price, a big price. It's also one of the world's most expensive countries. So, how much does it really cost to live in the Netherlands? I've lived in Amsterdam for over 5 years and 1 year in the small town of Maastricht. And cost of living is always a big topic, especially because prices have increased over the years. So for this video, we're gonna focus on 3 Dutch cities and towns: Amsterdam, The Hague, and Maastricht. And to do this, we're going to use my own personal data plus market data. We're going to focus on a single person household working full time and renting in the private market. And to understand how expensive things are, we also have to take into account how much people make. So in the end, we'll bring in salaries to get a better picture. And by the end, hopefully we'll have a better idea of how expensive the country actually is. Let's begin with the country's biggest nightmare: housing. For myself, I currently live in Amsterdam and I pay 1,600 for a 1-bedroom, centrally located in Amsterdam. But I do know prices have increased over the years, so let's see by how much. So I have it filtered by 1-bedrooms in Amsterdam, and the center is always going to be expensive. But what's crazy is that even if you look a bit outside, you can't find anything below 2,000 euros a month. Now, the last time I looked for an apartment was 2.5 years ago. That was crazy, but not this crazy. It looks like if you want to find something under 2K, you have to be lucky or you gotta search a bit further away. Let's switch to The Hague. Well, it seems like there aren't as many apartments as Amsterdam, but still, you're looking at around 2K for a 1-bedroom apartment in The Hague. A bit cheaper than Amsterdam, but this is still quite pricey. I mean, 800 euros, but for 39 meters squared? 1,400. So let's take a look at Maastricht. Not too many 1-bedroom apartments in Maastricht, but it looks like you're gonna pay between 1,000 to 1,500 for a 1-bedroom. Okay, so that gives us a better idea of how the market actually is. But let's dive a bit deeper and look at crowdsourced data from Numbeo and market research from Housing Anywhere. Now for Amsterdam, Numbeo tells us a 1-bedroom goes between 1,600 and 2,000 euros. Housing Anywhere says it goes between 1,300 and 1,900. So I think a good number now is around 1,700 euros for a 1-bedroom. In The Hague, 1,400 seems like a good number, and in Maastricht, 1,200. Something to keep in mind is that landlords require your salary to be 3 to 5 times rent. So for a 1,700 euro apartment in Amsterdam, your household income needs to be at least 61k per year. But the thing is, most people don't even make close to 60k. And that's where social housing can come into play. It's capped at 900 euros per month, and you can apply for social housing if your income is below 50k, which is great. But guess what? The waiting list can be years, and in big cities like Amsterdam, 10 to 15 years. Well, you could buy too, but housing prices have also increased over the years. And in Amsterdam, you need at least 120k to afford to buy a home. In The Hague, it's around 86k. And besides rent, let's go over utilities, internet, phone, and streaming. I personally pay around 150 euros per month for gas, electricity, and water, which is similar to the numbers from the National Institute of Budget. Internet is around 60 euros, and I pay 15 euros per month for a data plan, which gives me 15 gigabytes of internet and unlimited minutes. And nowadays, most people have streaming subscriptions, Netflix being one of the most popular ones. And for myself, I pay for 2. So in total, this comes out to around 250 euros per month. Healthcare. As an American, this word scares me. But I'm glad to say that in the Netherlands, it's a lot more simple and affordable. It costs around 160 euros per month for an average plan, with an average deductible of 385 euros per year. In previous years, I paid for a more expensive healthcare plan so that I could go with an out-of-contract provider for therapy, and it was covered 100% after my deductible. But unfortunately, things have changed. Healthcare is becoming more expensive and mental health care less accessible. And to find a therapist, many people have to wait 14 weeks or more. Now, I'm a big fan of therapy, and that's why I recommend BetterHelp, who's a paid partner for this video. When I got laid off last year, my therapist helped me work through some difficult emotions and come up with a plan to move forward, and I did. So if you're feeling stuck, that's where a professional therapist can help. They can help you work with your values, untangle external pressures, and develop tools to process emotions and move forward in life. And the convenient thing about BetterHelp is that it's fully online. You can find a therapist in its big network of diverse professionals. And to find a therapist, it's simple. You fill out a questionnaire about your needs. They pair you with a therapist in most cases within 48 hours. Then you meet, and if you decide you want to switch therapists, you can do so at any time. And for me, therapy has been one of my best investments. So if you'd like to start with BetterHelp, you can do so by clicking the link in the description below, or you can visit betterhelp.com/davidwen to get 10% off your first month of therapy. But let's assume that I use up my deductible every year for things like therapy, emergencies, and self-care. And that averages to around 30 euros per month. And then if you want dental insurance, it's around 30 euros per month, which includes annual cleanings. So in total, I spend a little bit over 200 euros per month on healthcare and dental costs. For groceries and household items, I mainly shop at Albert Heijn because it's just down the block and it's convenient. Now, I'm quite a simple guy when it comes to groceries, but I do have a potato chip addiction and I'll have a glass of wine here and there. But the nice thing is, you can get a nice bottle of wine for 3, 4, 5 euros at Albert Heijn. And the produce in the country is quite cheap and high quality as well. So let me check my bank records. On any given month, I spend anywhere between 200 and 400 euros on groceries, add in household items, and it's around 340 euros per month. But that doesn't include dining out, which can be expensive, especially in places like Amsterdam. But this also depends. Is it summer? Is it winter? Are you going out on dates? Are you going Dutch? For example, in Amsterdam, the average cost of a date is around 115 euros. Yes, a nice dinner, drinks, a show, that's easily 100 euros. Now for me in Amsterdam, I usually dine out at low to mid-range restaurants, and I spend around 20 euros for lunch or brunch, 35 euros for dinner, which includes a drink or two. And I have multiple cappuccinos per week because I like coffee. I also love Dutch fries, and that's 4 to 5 euros each. So overall, I average around 330 euros per month in Amsterdam. Now, restaurant prices in The Hague and Maastricht are 20% cheaper. So let's assume 20% less in The Hague. And in Maastricht, I'm gonna lower that amount a bit more because salaries are smaller there and there are fewer options there as well. Okay, Dutch public transport, something people love complaining about because it's expensive, one of the most expensive in the world. And to be honest, it really is. For example, a 26-minute train ride from Amsterdam to Utrecht costs 9 euros or 6 euros if you have a monthly subscription. But what is nice is that if you need to travel to the office for work, most employers will reimburse your work travel. So I checked my invoices, excluded office travel, and I average around 60 euros per month on public transport. That includes 6 euros for an NS Flex subscription. I also take the bus and metro in Amsterdam, and I typically travel to a few Dutch cities every month as well. I'm assuming I'd spend the same if I lived in The Hague, but in Maastricht, there are fewer public transport options. But I remember when I was living there, I would make multiple trips to nearby Germany, Amsterdam, and even Heerlen. And before moving on, of course, there's biking. Everyone bikes, but it's free to cycle. I paid 150 euros for my bike. Then it got stolen, and then I bought the same bike for another 150 euros. But this comes out of my emergency fund. And what about cars? I've been car free for the past 6 years. You don't really need a car if you live in a big city or town. So let's stick with 60 euros per month for public transport. And as I get older, I realize how important strength training is, so the gym is a must for me. Now, I've tried many gyms, and a typical gym membership ranges between 25 to 60, 70 euros per month. So let's say the average membership is around 35 to 40 euros per month. And don't forget about taxes, municipality and local taxes. Now, there's a bunch of them, but two of the common ones are garbage tax, which is for garbage collection, and water tax, which is for water management. The amount depends on where you live, but I pay around 350 euros per year for garbage tax in Amsterdam, and for water tax, it's around 300 euros per year or 25 euros per month. And if you add those up, that comes out to around 50 euros per month on municipality taxes. And typically, I also have an other category, which is around 5% of my income. This goes towards things like haircuts, shopping, local travel, or anything else. For example, I pay 20 euros per month for a haircut, and I also have a museum card, which I pay 75 euros per year, which is still the best deal in the country. Travel is also a big bucket for me. I go back to California at least once per year, so I typically budget around a few thousand euros per year on travel. So in total, I typically spend around 3,200 euros per month in Amsterdam. In The Hague, it's around 15% cheaper using my budget, and that's due to housing and cost of restaurants. And in Maastricht, I'm assuming it's going to be 20% cheaper. So when we look at these numbers, is that expensive? Well, it depends. It also depends on how much you make.
19 euros an hour?
65 per annum.
3.3 per month?
2700 euro.
2,700 euros a month.
Around 2000 euro.
65 until 85.
So I did talk to people in Amsterdam about their salaries, and I also work in HR, so I have a pretty good idea of how much people would make. So here's what we'll do. We're going to create a budget. Money in, money out. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but it's going to give us a better idea of how expensive the country really is. So from a bus driver to a teacher to someone working in finance, these are their salaries and monthly income after taxes. And if you make below 37K as a single person, you're eligible to get allowance from the government to pay for rent and also healthcare. Now let's plug in the monthly expenses that we calculated. And finally, let's see how much we'll save or lose based on these scenarios. What this tells us is if you want to live in a place like Amsterdam, you need to be either poor and patient to find social housing, or well off and lucky to find a place to rent, or you can live with roommates if you're able to filter out all the scammers, or you can just be filthy rich. Now, The Hague is more affordable, but not by a lot. Other big cities like Rotterdam and Utrecht are also quite expensive. The big factor is housing. If you live in a smaller town like Maastricht or even outside these major cities, housing is a lot more affordable and you can actually save. But the truth is, plan on spending 30 to 50% of your take-home pay on rent if you want to live in a major city. But in general, for a single person who wants to live alone comfortably in Amsterdam, I would say one needs 60k to live comfortably in Amsterdam, 55 to 60k in The Hague, and at least 45k in Maastricht. Now, you can probably find a smaller studio for cheaper, but this is if you want a one-bedroom. Now again, many of these numbers are objective, but also subjective, so please let me know your thoughts. Oh yeah, one more thing that we didn't talk about yet is retirement, pension. Many employees contribute to an employee pension plan, and typically the employer contributes a larger portion and the employee contributes a smaller portion. 70-30 is a common split. And this comes out of your paycheck, so if we want to be more accurate, take out a few hundred euros from your paycheck. So how expensive is the Netherlands? Well, besides housing in big cities and towns, I actually find that the cost of living is quite affordable. And you don't need to live in a big city or town. There's plenty of beautiful towns and cities that are more affordable. And when it comes to cost of living, there are other factors that you can't put a price tag on, such as what's the community like, the people, the job market, how far do you need to travel for work. Now, for me, paying to live in Amsterdam has been worth it. It's been a dream come true. It's something that I will look back on in my life and say, wow, what an experience. Well, that's it for me. I would love to hear your thoughts. Please share them in the comments below, and I hope you take care. If you like to create your own budget, see how much you make after taxes based on different salaries, and how much you can save, I created a cost of living calculator. If you like access, join my Patreon community where I'll share this plus many other exclusive content and resources.